So last night, I was doing some research. Something had me kind of, how is the stock market doing, during this shutdown, this government shutdown? And the reason why my question is that is because oftentimes you'll hear of the stock market and people in the stock market, fear mongering about how, there's a government shutdown on its way, blah, blah, blah. And so the stock market's going to plummet and all this stuff. But historically, I found that the stock market actually thrives during a government shutdown. And I'm thinking, fear mongering at its finest. This is a great example of how the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So they claim that non-essential federal government functions pause. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't SNAP benefits and WIC and housing assistance, aren't those essential for people who legitimately need them? So if federal employees, right, get furloughed and there's a potential of them not getting paid, which I'm still not, something about that don't add up. I'm sorry, because in the past, when federal employees were furloughed due to a shutdown, they got back pay when they returned. And people need to learn the difference between getting fired, okay, and laid off, and being furloughed, okay? So if the government says, okay, you can't come into work today because we're closed because of the government shutdown, that would be a furlough, because they're expecting for those employees to return to work, okay? They're not fired. So one would think that because how it works is, unless you're like, hey, I'm not going to be in work today, then yes, of course, you're not going to get paid. But if you're ready and willing to go to work, and then your work says, hey, nope, don't come in, whatever, because of whatever, I mean, technically, they would need to pay you something. Like, I used to work for a couple companies where I was scheduled to work, and then I got a call saying, hey, we have enough people, we don't need you, or whatever. And then they would actually give me 2 hours of pay that day. 2, right? And if I had shown up for work, and then they told me that, there's a lot of people on at the company right now, we have everything covered, we don't need any more people, then they would give me a 4-hour pay, right? Because I took the time to go to my work and then be told to go home, then they would still pay me, but not a full day, just, increments. And so it's much like that. But if someone was fired, let go, laid off, then the government can't say, oh, well, we expect you to be back at work. No, you laid them off. You fired them. You cut them loose. They don't have any expectations of returning to that job. You see the vast difference? Well, correct me if I'm wrong. If Congress, they're not classified as federal employees. My question is this. I'm trying to understand why Congress isn't seen as federal employees. They work for the federal government. Okay? And technically, they're not private. They're not a private sector. They're public in that they work for the American public. So how is it that, federal employees get the shaft, don't get paid, told not to come to work, all that stuff, but these politicians, right, who are just showing up to work and just shooting the breeze because we all know they're not actually working for us, they're working for people who they've let into the country, false, just letting people in. Apparently our laws don't matter, which is interesting because while people say, oh, it's racist and da 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 da, is it? Have you bothered to look, the people who are saying that America, borders and ICE and all that stuff is racist, have you ever bothered to look into other countries and how they run their borders? Because if you haven't, please sit down, okay? Because majority of countries, they have policies, they have rules, laws on the books that if you enter their country illegally, guess what? There's a punishment involved. Not, oh, come over, yes, we know that you broke in here illegally, so we're going to give you housing, food, education, whatever, and all these other things that you didn't earn. No, you don't hear that. You don't hear about that. If you want those kinds of things, guess what? You got to be a legal resident of those countries. What a concept. So the next information I'm going to share is for entertainment purposes only. Dear God. Okay. So, politicians and accountability. Okay? All these people, they have some kind of, degree in law, politics, all that stuff, right? While they might not all have law degrees, which I think probably should happen. If you're going to defend or work within our laws, you should probably be well versed in it. Just saying. I mean, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and I know a great deal, but I don't know everything I need to know about the law to enforce it. Okay? Anyways, I just want to throw that in there. So, I find it interesting that politicians, right? Again, for entertainment only, because God forbid we have a thought process that's remotely true and factual. A lot of politicians are involved in shady dealings. Give you an example, and you can look this up. This is right there, surface level research. You don't have to go down a rabbit hole to find this information. But Senator Richard Burr and Senators Kelly Loeffler, James Inhofe, I'm not sure what their last names, I can't, Dianne Feinstein, were scrutinized in 2020 for selling stocks shortly after private briefings on the COVID-19 pandemic, raising insider trading concerns. But what happened to Senator Burr, shall we? While he was investigated, despite the investigations, no criminal charges were drawn up. Why? Why not? There's obviously enough evidence to accuse someone of this crime, but yet he gets a slap on the hand. Don't do that again. That's not okay. If anybody else in our country would have done that, low-level Americans, whatever you want to call them, they would go to jail for a long time. Okay? Last time I checked, these people are supposed to uphold the law, not break it. Okay? Much like, when you have crooked police out there and they took an oath to protect, or not, well, my bad, not anymore apparently, since 2005, you can look that up. They're not obligated to protect you, which I think is fascinating because that's their whole job, right? Bottom line, these people took an oath to uphold the law. You would think there would be severe consequences for breaking those laws. Just thought I'd throw that out there because it's messed up. How are you gonna, come into an industry where your whole premise of being is to uphold our laws just to break them and have no accountability? That's not okay.